Hey guys, how's everything going? This is JSer. Recently, there's a hot topic on about React. It's called the new hook useEvent. It's possibly gonna be a new hook in the future React versions. Currently, it's in the RFC state, meaning it's still in under like public communication. It's still under design. It's not implemented yet. I think. You can access the RFC repository to see the detailed design document. It addresses why and how and why not, all those kind of questions you might have. And today, let's just read through the document together briefly to see what kind of problems you try to solve, and do you whether we resonate with these problems and whether we have some alternative solutions. So let's just jump straight to not real, but some scenarios. Like, suppose we have a chat app. Basically, there's an input. When we input, after input, we click the send button and send the message, right? So we have a chat and use a state to keep track of the input state, the text. And when the button is clicked, this onClick callback is triggered and we can send the message. This is some async functions. And so this is the raw implementation. It works, but there's a problem is that every time chat is rendered, onClick, this will create a new function. And so the send button will receive a new onClick callback. So this is not cool, as I believe that everyone writing React applications now should always be very familiar with this callback thing. So basically, use callback is to like kind of memo the functions we're gonna use. So if you wrap with use callback, and this onClick is conceptually issued, we could avoid the unnecessary change for this function, and just hypothetically this would result in this onClick not being changed, and send button could stop there. So it will improve the performance situation. But the problem is that the text here is a bit tricky. The text is actually accessing the state here, so we need to actually use this callback as the dependency here. Otherwise, because as we already covered in the previous videos about how use callback work, maybe have we covered that? I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe, I guess. Anyway, this function, when it's it will be like a closure, and it will hold the reference to the text initial text forever, because text is some data value. Here you could think of like its primitive string, and it cannot be altered dynamically. In a closure, it will just hold the initial value and forever, and this is not gonna work. Every time you click it, it will just send the initial text, which is empty. So the text must be in the dependency. And now here's a problem. This looks fine, but every time we type something, this onClick still, even if you use callback, this function is we would still create a new onClick callback here. So it kind of improved, but still not solving the issue properly. So here, for me, what I would do, what you can do is that actually several solutions for this. You could just you don't use a state, but use some input ref to hold the reference to the DOM element, and let the DOM element hold the state. And in onClick, you can just use the ref and get the value there. So you don't need to have the text itself as dependency, but you have the ref to the DOM element as a dependency. And because it's a ref, it doesn't change over rendering. So the issue is perfectly solved. Another way to solve this is that you create another ref wrapping up this text, and then in this function here, you could just access the text ref. Yeah, how can I write it? Like, okay, I'll just comment here. Like, you can const text ref and use ref. It's like text, and use effect. Wow, it's just maybe a little slow. But you can use layout effect here to be a little faster. Use layout effect and text ref the current equals text. So it basically means that you can wrap the things up in the ref, because ref object is persistent across different renders. We can take advantage of that, and then we don't need to worry about the text because it's already in a ref. And then in this the text here, we could just use the text ref current. It just perfectly solved the situation. Anyway, yeah, if by using the useEvent here, let's jump straight to how it is conceptually implemented. Yeah, conceptually it's something similar actually. You can see that useEvent. This is the handler. Remember, there is no dependency in this useEvent, and the handler will be a new handler every time the function renders. And here it holds a ref to this handler, and it also updates the ref in this handler, and then it returns a function, return the callback function. Because this dependency is empty, it will be the same forever. It's kind of like a ref, right? Okay, and then what it do is that return the function, and this function will be delegated. It will be calling the original function, which is stored in the handler ref, and yeah, it called them. And so it basically did something similar, but wrap it up in the useEvent. And it's specifically use callback, so it's perfectly for the event handlers. Yeah, and notice that here it sets the current to the handler every time, without the dependency. Oh yeah, it it doesn't matter. I think we should actually has a dependency here. It's the handler. If the handler doesn't change, why would we run this, right? Yeah, but it's still, it doesn't harm. It doesn't matter actually. Cool. So this is basically what kind of problems the useEvent is tries to solve. By using this useEvent here, the difference you can see is that it basically is this on callback, but without the dependencies, and on click here will be persistent over renders, so we don't need to worry about different unclicks on every render, so it's safe. And yeah, it's kind of like making our life so much easier, right? Without worrying about the on callback and all those dependency stuff. Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah, you can see that it's always same function even if the text changes. Why? Because the function here, it changes every time, but it's stored in the ref, and the function behavior is wrapped in a different function which is persistent, which will be internally using this updated function. Cool. useEffect shouldn't refire when the event handler change. Here's another example. Suppose we have a chat app and have this a state called muted and theme context. And when we select a room, change the room, we need to connect to a new socket and the WebSocket, and yeah, or dispose as a cleanup. Yeah, on each message we toast the message. If not muted, we play the sound. Because these variables are used in this callback of event creator, we need to add them to dependency, right? Yeah, because otherwise they will hold to the initial data forever. We add them, but this again result in the situation that reruns when any of them change, because when theme changes, this will be run again, this will be disposed and connect again. So these three are treated the same. To solve this, as we can do, I think we could just ref, like a ref size, create a ref for each of them, for these two, and then use the dot current inside of it. It should be fine. This is the problem. If you move these socket callbacks out of the effect, wrap them in the use callback, it doesn't matter. You might be tempted to ignore the theme muted. We shouldn't, because it will be use them forever. If we use event now, the code here is a bit strange. It show toast, like this part is some behavior event handler. So it's some event handler triggered on some event, so it use event to wrap them up, because it depends on the theme. Another one is on message, unconnected. This is on message. It depends on the theme, depends on the muted. So, and these will be persistent. So this unconnected and on message will be persistent. So now when we use the effect, we could only depend. We are able to be dependent on only select room, because these two functions are event handlers. They are persistent. They don't change the effect. This is pretty cool. I would say this is pretty cool. I see why they're using the naming it useEvent. This is actually the effect, and these are the event handler. Cool. Passing arguments to event. When you call this, the theme are available fresh. Why they're fresh? Because we don't have the dependency in the useEvent. They will be all fresh. This function will always be fresh. So they will be able to fetch the updated data muted theme here. Fresh, However, you might also want to pass some information from the past. In the above example, if selected room changes, say while check connection room A is being awaited, rendering the select room inside the connected event will give you the latest value, but the room you're just connected to, if select room changes while connection is being awaited inside of it, but the value we want is not latest value, but the one that caused this event. This is why we pass it as part of the event call, and unconnected receives connected room as argument. Okay, interesting. Here, nothing fancy. As callback, we will always be able to pass down the argument here. The theme is not part of what happened. You didn't connect a room with light theme, So this makes sense to read as fresh value inside of event. Wrap the events at the usage site. Functions can be wrapped with useEvent further down from their definition, for example, in a custom hook. Chat here. Use room. So in use room, we this is the raw function, change every time. You use event, wrap them up, and use fact. Cool. So this could be applied to some data we get from the props. Extracting event from an effect. What does it mean? In the early example, it was easy to classify this as events because they were passed to the event listener. However, the concept is more general and applies in more cases. Whenever you have an effect where refiring on data change doesn't make sense, the idiomatic solution would often be extracting an event from it. For example, we have a page like this. When the route changes, we need to log some data, but we have some data extra other than the route URL, so we need to pass them to a dependency. But this name doesn't trigger the log. These trigger the log. They're kind of like this is a try to. This is some fundamental issue of how React works, right? This is just how it works. It's like it's the callback closure, capturing the data, but we have to update them, but it's not the triggerer. Yeah, we have to set the dependency, but actually what we want is not dependent on all of them. So yeah, so here we see that useEffect, this is the triggering the event, and how we handle the event is different. Oh yeah, so let's think of this way. How we handle the event is something depending on the triggers. And how we handle the event is actually something else, right? This is some behavior, this is some trigger. So trigger has some dependency, we use effect to trigger them. But this one is behavior, we just need to fetch the updated data. Cool. And this internal implementation, yeah. Okay, linter something, nothing's fancy. When it should not be used. Functions called during render still use callback. For something like this, yeah, obviously render item is something you do it in the render. It's not on some event, so you should not use event, obviously. Not all functions in effect dependency are events. Yeah, of course. Not all functions extracted from effects are event. Create socket, it is not event. Yeah, this is not event, right? There's nothing called a dependency. Drawbacks, this adds to a new concept. Yep. Looks more noisy. Yep. Use event, blah blah blah. There's a naming issue, it's trivial compared to callback. Adds extra work to the commit phase. I don't know what that means. Blah blah blah. Alternative. Call something different. Yeah. Give the user behavior to. We don't want this because it has different semantics. Maybe. For React event handlers to always to be clear, use event. This seems premature at this point. Maybe. And an API to read the latest version of arbitrary value instead. We find that this gets noisy in practice. Yeah, I think the use event is pretty easier. Not pretty, but it's like a heuristic solution, basically for event handlers. It's like it's some approach that you don't need to care about the technical detail, but you can bluntly memorize it, just memo it down, and it should be easier for your life. Add some special API to use effect. Okay, this is something interesting. Use effect. Maybe there's something use layout effect, but anyway, yeah, interesting. Same proposal allowing calling event handlers during rendering. I don't know. but different timing when the current version is switched up. A different linter, okay, linter is not important. Adoption strategy, releasing the minor, on to use event instead of linter's current, use callback suggestion, yeah, gradually adopt it. A high fidelity polyfill is not possible, although use event callback is close enough. What is this? Use event callback. I didn't know this. Aim to be easier and use callback to solve the problems with this ticket. Didn't need the end dependency list. The return function should not be used during rendering. So this is, oh yeah, this is something pretty much the same already 3 years ago, and only 6 stars. Not people are used. Is internal use layout effect? Yeah, okay, cool. It doesn't throw. Okay, you need something. It needs some internal stuff to detect whether it's inside the rendering or not. The timing isn't right. We don't recommend broadly adopt this pattern to this version of React. Okay, cool. How we teach this? It's easy to teach how to write a function in it. How to solve problems a bit harder, yeah. The exact timing of when switches unresolved. Whether it makes sense for unmount layout effect to see event handler with the old one, or it makes sense for unmounting layout effect to see event handler with the old one. I don't know what it means. Okay. Whether calling event handlers from the effect cleanup function is an anti-pattern, and whether issue warn. How exactly to change the linter suggestion? Whether figuring out the full typing story. Okay, it's pretty complex. But general idea is this: they are trying to create some first-class primitives for event handlers. I think it's pretty cool. Looking forward to how it goes. Yeah, that's it. I don't know whether this video helps you, but it's pretty interesting. This repository itself is pretty interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll spend more time reading all of them. That's it. Hope it helps. See you next time. Bye bye.